Hi, Dina. Where is he?
Good morning.
Hi, team. We're just giving everyone a couple of minutes to join, and then we're going to kick off. Good to see great attendance from everyone. And that should be up on the screen now, hopefully. Couple of minutes there. It looks like we're at the 2 minutes past, Darryl, so I think we're ready to go. Right.
Yeah, kick off.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us today, guys. Dan Hicks. The session today is Trusted Advisors, Trusted Cloud Providers. You're going to hear from myself on the VMware Service Provider side, and then my colleagues, Mark Biggs on the Nutanix and Darryl Kelly on the Red Hat side. Hopefully, you see this as the sort of session that you're looking for us moving forwards as your trusted advisor. And first of all, I wanted to touch on what that term means to us here at TD SYNNEX. It's a term that I've been here 20 years. I can look back in slide decks sort of 10 years ago and still see that term, but we've really refined what that means to us in terms of driving growth for you as our partners, increasing the profitability, reducing cost. Reducing cost, as you will know, has been particularly challenging on the VMware side, and customer satisfaction. And if I think about why we're running this session, very much it's in that customer satisfaction piece. Obviously, there's been some significant changes in the market around VMware. It's prompted a lot of inquiries, and what it's seen is as a team, we're working closer together. I've been doing a lot of work with the team here, bidding to win the Premier and Pinnacle Partners business under the new VMware program. And quite often I'm talking about our shared values, and those are inclusion, collaboration, integrity, and excellence. And I think they're even more relevant as we're going through this stage. Inclusivity in terms of making sure that we're hearing the voices from all parts of the partner landscape, from those that are in the VMware program and those that are needing to look at white labeling. Collaboration, hopefully this session demonstrates how we at TD SYNNEX work and collaborate together. Integrity counts, and I think there's been some real challenges around that. Know that TD SYNNEX are in your corner. Our corporate values and the way we operate in the market means we're giving that additional protection around some of the challenges that you may have faced in recent times. And excellence, we win. I think we're doing a really good job at working with our partners, white labelers, Pinnacles, Premiers. And this is really a great place to work. I've been here now, this is year 20 for me. And there's people here that I've worked with for a long period of time. And I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to the business management team here for our VMware, our Red Hat, and our Nutanix teams. These are the guys that are putting together the strategy. They're helping make sure that we've got a really strong go-to-market from a vendor point of view. And then we work together to make sure there's that cohesion. So hopefully people's cameras will appear. Dina, you with us?
Hi, yes, I am. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for the intro. So I've worked with, some of you may or may not know me, I've worked with Dan for a number of years, probably in 20 years as well, sorry, not 22 years. So I'm Dina Reeston. I look after the Nutanix business here at TD SYNNEX. And as Dan says, I just make sure that you've got the help that you need from my teams, from the wider teams like Dan, and from our technical teams as well. So Mark Biggs is one of our extended Nutanix. He's one of our leaders for technical. So that's me in a nutshell. You should all have my details at the end of this call. And if you need anything, please just give me a shout and me and my team will help you.
Amazing, Dina. Chloe, I believe you're there as well.
Yeah, I am. I'm not camera ready today though, guys. I'm afraid, but thank you so much for this opportunity, Dan. Yeah, as you said, collaboration piece of this is really important, and making sure that we're supporting partners across the board. So hopefully you find today's session useful, and we can have some follow-ups following today's session over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and it's worth calling out. It's in particular, Darryl was the one that was pushing us to say we really should be doing this sort of session and let's push it forward. So big thanks to Darryl and your team for doing that. And you'll hear from him. He's got the last slot in this session. And last but very much not least, Izzy Hedges. Izzy.
Thanks, Dan. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So yeah, VMware Business Manager, joined the team in October, so just before the Broadcom acquisition. Obviously, we all know quite how challenging that has been and how many changes there have been. So Dan is definitely best placed to run you through all those changes today. And if you need anything after this call, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Amazing. Thanks, Izzy. And before I go into some of the VMware specific stuff and the timeline, when we're thinking about the value, and you'll see this from all of our teams about the types of value that we create. I'm going to very quickly scoot around this. That technology portfolio, you've got 3 of our core infrastructure vendors that we're here to talk to you about today. Our local skills, the technical expertise that you're going to hear from some of the guys today. Services and support. There's been some big changes in the VMware teams. We're going to be offering support to certain segments of the VMware customer base moving forwards. So we're adapting and changing the level and depths of skills that we have in that space. And financial solutions, again, is becoming ever more important as vendors change programs, looking for larger and longer commitments. TD Capital have really been engaged with us on making sure we've got finance solutions in place to help move the market through these changes. So on to a Broadcom, and timeline is very much in quotation marks here. I think a number of you will have seen timelines from VMware at the moment that are start, middle, end of the months. What I'm going to try and do is at least give you sort of a clearer update and dates that we have, or dates that I think we should be working towards. So first of all, register for white labeling. So there've been a total of 30 partners invited back into the VMware Partner Program. That left about 360 needing to go via one of those partners if they wish to continue using VMware in a service provider model. Looking at it at the moment, I would say around half, maybe slightly less of partners have actually gone back and registered. I would expect a bigger adoption of white labeling. Yes, I'm expecting some drop off, but based on the timelines of how quickly you guys have had to adapt to this, I think it's less than likely. Any questions, by the way, put them in the Q&A at the end, and we are going to go through all of the questions en masse. So there is the chat piece. Look for the Q&A bit, fire the questions in there, and we'll get through as many as we can at the end of these sessions, guys. So register for white labeling. If you are one of the Premier or Pinnacle partners looking to offer it, make sure you've gone through the registration process for that. For those of you that are looking to find a white labeler, obviously we've got a selection of partners that are working with us. We're happy to do introductions to them. But one of those first steps is to make sure that you've got the registration in as a registered VCSP partner with Broadcom. If you need the links to that, I'll share it post this session, but reach out to us if you've got any questions. Consider your options. And that involves looking at the various vendors that you've got here today, seeing what's the right fit for your customers and the workload types that you've got. But from a VMware perspective, I think it's really important to think about what the options are. It might seem limited in the sense that it is a single product, VMware Cloud Foundation, but this is the top of the range, the full shebang of the VMware product set. A lot of you won't be using the full stack. There's obviously vSphere and vCenter is common. Making sure you've looked at things like vCloud Director and self-service capabilities, thinking about how you might use some of the ARIA suite management tools, either to better manage the platforms or look at how you might monetize those moving forwards. you have to think about the sort of commercial impact here. And it's, I think a comment I saw from one of the CTOs at our partners was very much about stripping away the emotion from this. It's about thinking about what's the right route for you. What do you need from that solution? There's a reason why VMware have got to the market position they've got. Great products that could be trusted to deliver an excellent service. And when it's often your brand that's tied to the service that you're delivering, it seems ever more important that you've got a trusted player in that space. If you're not certain about how you monetize those products or you make better use of them, reach out to us and we're happy to work and engage with you. Selecting your cloud commerce manager or white labeler. My recommendation is we work towards the end of this week and that something is put in writing. Currently, there isn't a select your partner option. We're making sure that we're getting in writing, a partner's ready to move to us. I see from the white labelers, they're doing very similar things, letters of intent. This is trying to make sure we've secured our relationships to move as quickly as we need to based on the limited information that's coming through. Confirm your requirements. If we're aiming to make sure we've selected who it is we're working with, we really need to make sure we have a firm idea of that by the end of April. We've got to think about optimal states. So there's the requirements that you've got now, but we have a very small window to make sure, have we thought about how that environment can be optimized, where it might be? Primarily because the VMware model moves to that 3-year commitment model if you're looking to get any discount on it. And we need to be sure that the commitment you make is the right commitment for the period. The Broadcom systems are going to come online on the 6th of May. I was on a call earlier with Izzy and we were talking about the training of our teams to use the system. So there'll be a period of time from those systems coming online to when we expect the orders to be placed and the program to begin. But my working estimate on that is probably about the 20th of May when we will need to place the orders from the Premier and the Pinnacle partners, and that includes the white labeling piece that goes with it. How are we going to be looking to support the partners? And this is for our Pinnacle and our Premier partners. We see a council of cloud providers. I believe we're going to be very successful in the service provider space at having the strongest and most vocal cloud provider community. We see focusing on sales, helping our service providers adopt some of the resale go-to-markets that they're looking at, ensuring they've got vendor presence. From a marketing perspective, we're going to help those partners address the verticals and the verticalized opportunity we see, and think about how we market as a community. Some of the marketing that we ran last year was end user centric, and it was highlighting the value of service providers. I really feel like we can sort of hit the boost on that, and as a community have that most vocal support. End users are looking for trusted advisors, trusted cloud providers to work with, but they need to know that you guys are out there looking to support. And from a technical point of view, making sure that we're not picking up all the shelfware, that we're making full use of the tools that say VMware are offering in the bundle, driving automation to reduce cost, considering the likes of containerizations and Kubernetes. And I think I've warmed more into that space and thinking about we need to think longer term about where we're going to be. And I know that's going to be a focus for the guys that follow me. And risk mitigation, very relevant in the space and the times that we're in now, making sure that we're helping you mitigate risk should things change from a vendor or any other sort of geopolitical things. You know, how do we make sure that we have given you that sort of business resilience? I very much feel that these are things where we target ourselves, we set goals. The reason this is relevant to all partners, because it's how we're going to engage with our partners that are into the program, but it is also something in terms of support that we will offer to the white labelers. So if they want to run similar sessions, if they want to share the content that we're working on, we see it as part of that community effort that we make at TD SYNNEX to support our white labelers above and beyond. Why people are choosing TD SYNNEX, and I like to think part of the reason they choose some of the white labelers, knowing that they're backed by ourselves. Our most experienced resources are in our CSP team. As I say, I bring 15 years experience, but I think we looked at about 120 years or something across the team. We have a proven track record of the partner-to-partner space. Hopefully you've seen how active and vocal we've been in that. We were starting that before there was a white labelling program, knowing that we needed to help you address the problems in the market. We've run data-driven marketing campaigns in that end-user space, that evidenced capability to go to market and promote what we do as a community. If you're not following me on LinkedIn, please follow me on LinkedIn. You'll see that we typically put in monthly customer success stories, but as a team, we are vocal with over 10,000 connections in our VMware team. I think it becomes ever more important that we have a way of, one of the reasons we've got such great attendance today is the reach that we've got in our digital presence. Then finally, the other real reason for the nows is that we are encouraging teams to engage with Darryl, with Mark, with Dina, with Chloe. These teams bring value and expertise. They bring deep vendor knowledge and relationships. We absolutely encourage it and let us work as your trusted advisor to make sure you're making the right decisions. And then, as I say, that council approach, I think, becomes ever more important as we've seen. Individually, our voices are smaller. We are the largest by far global VMware customer at TD SYNNEX, but it's about us working as a community and amplifying our voices in the same way of our corporate values. And then we're going to look at this partner-to-partner space. I think what we've seen is that market is going to grow. It's going to become more important. Know that TD SYNNEX are going to invest in the platforms and the partnerships needed to deliver. And on that note, that's enough for me. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing a glut of questions. But on that note, I'm going to pass over to Mark, who's going to talk to you about the Nutanix piece.
Thank you, Dan. Just bear with me while I share my screen. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. So yeah, I'm just going to give you, so I'm Mark Biggs, Technical Practice Manager here at TD SYNNEX, and I'm just going to give you an overview of data center modernization with Nutanix. So what's driving initiatives around businesses? So transforming and growing and managing risk. So when we talk about transforming, businesses are looking to change the way they do business, operate in new ways, looking more at the data that they have and see what value that offers, especially with the upcoming integration and development of AI. People are looking at AI to use their existing data and see how they're going to manage their existing data to leverage some of that AI capability. So transformation is always what business is looking to do to transform the way they go to market, essentially. When businesses are looking to grow, they want to automate the things that they do really well. So anything that they do really well, let's automate that. Let's change the process on that, and then start to develop new revenue streams. So looking to offer new services and products out to the market. And again, once again, that links into the AI platform, leveraging existing data that customers have as well. And ongoing with that is managing risk. Okay, so when we're transforming our business, we don't want to make too many changes, make drastic changes. We want to do it in a controlled way, and we still need to maintain that compliance. Okay, whether that's a internal process compliance or whether that's a institutional government compliance. It's the fact that we need to keep our data safe, we need to keep it secure, we need to keep it for a certain amount of time. We need to make sure that the compliance runs into those new developments as well, and when we're utilizing AI, we're compliant with those infrastructures as well. So some of the challenges or constraints we have when we're going through these changes is budget, staffing and time. So with budget, again, money is always a squeeze. People are always trying to do, or businesses are always trying to do more on a smaller budget. Okay, so again, this is really looking at how we can automate things, how we can take people out of those processes and put them into a more constructive path. Staffing, again, skills gaps and lack of training. So again, making sure we've got the right people doing the right jobs. We've not got overstretched staff and mistakes happening, and The other thing is as well is managing infrastructure. What we want to do is we want to get away from managing and firefighting our infrastructure. That's part of the stuff that we want to automate, and we want to place our staff in the right areas where we get a better return on them, essentially. And the one thing we're always up against is time as well. Okay, so again, when we're doing that transformation, those time constraints that are laid on us. If customers are looking to move to cloud, those cloud movements can take a lot of time. And obviously with that, you're buying cloud and you're managing your on-prem. So again, it's making sure that we get those time management things on track, essentially. So looking at the operating landscape, so it used to be two decisions. What do we do? Do we decide whether to put our kit on premise, or do we actually deploy it in the cloud? Now those decisions, it's not just an either or, it's the fact that what data do we have, what applications are we looking to run, and where should we put those? Some might be best put on premise because we know the footprint for those. We might have scale applications that we might want to offer or utilize as a service, which we should probably be putting in the cloud. And then we've got to decide what do we put where, which cloud do we use, which hyperscaler, which does it best, which offers us the best return on investment and cost and so on. So again, the additional complexities, it's not just about making that decision, do we go cloud or do we go prem? It's about that hybrid cloud infrastructure. So siloed operating models, so they can't keep up, and that's because a lot of them are too slow, they're too complicated. Again, having to learn different tools for each individual area, whether that's in your 3.2 environment, whether that's understanding individual cloud or hyperscale platforms. They can be too expensive, especially when you get tied into long contracts. And the other thing is if we do deploy into those different hyperscalers, do we need to have a person that is trained and traversed in those particular hyperscalers or that on-prem infrastructure? So how do we combat that, and what do we need is ultimately, ideally, we want a consistent operating model with a unified experience where we can run our application and our data in pretty much any of those hyperscalers or that on-premise situation. So how can we do that with Nutanix? So Nutanix has essentially pioneered the hyperconverged infrastructure. So they're one of the market leaders in hyperconverged. Again, bringing that hyperconverged infrastructure down to give you that cloud-like feel on-prem or wherever you want to run it. So with Nutanix now and NC2, we can actually run Nutanix in our in the hyperscalers, so Azure, AWS, and GCP. So again, it's that one pane of glass, if you like. I know it's a bad acronym or saying, but you've got that one pane of glass, and you can manage your on-prem or your hyperscalers from your Nutanix deployed on bare metal in those hyperscalers. Again, we can migrate between those as well. So again, it's all about having that hybrid cloud deployment as opposed to siloing yourself to on-prem or siloing yourself to a particular cloud deployment. So Nutanix's three main objectives is to offer flexibility, simplicity, and obviously to reduce cost. And how can Nutanix do that? So with Nutanix, we can run any application or any workload within any any hyperscaler or on-premise platform. So again, suitable for enterprise applications, cloud-native applications, AI, analytics, and machine learning, database desktops, and then we can run those applications in your preferred space. So again, any hardware vendor, any of the hyperscalers, GCP, AWS, and Azure. And again, we've got support for those edge locations as well. So again, being able to run those apps in any of those locations. So Nutanix's commitment to sustainability. So obviously with a hyperconverged environment, it's all x86 based essentially, which basically means that we don't have separate storage arrays or a purpose-built piece of tin. So it's all x86 off the shelf, which essentially means that you're putting in a smaller footprint, which reduces power consumption, cooling requirements, and because it's x86 servers, essentially, they can still be repurposed after their life for a different purpose. Again, if you've got a storage appliance, potentially you've got the issue of that will only ever be a storage appliance. When we're looking at Nutanix and we're sizing for Nutanix as well, what we're looking at is, again, similar to the cloud offering, you buy what you need today and then you go into that. So many times we see customers over provisioning their environment. They are buying lots of tin and don't actually end up using either that computer or that storage capacity. They're running it for over that 5 period of time, and when they come to refresh, we're looking at their environment and they're massively over provisioned. So again, instead of burning budgets up front, buy what you need today and then grow out as you need. It's similar to the way you would consume cloud, and that's the whole idea with Nutanix, is to get to that cloud consumption feel, essentially. Not only that, is you can minimize your carbon use. Again, talks about the power and cooling aspect in terms of reducing footprint, but again, you can run Nutanix in cloud environments as well. So essentially, why Nutanix? So deploying a HCI infrastructure or a hybrid cloud can be done in hours or even minutes in some cases. You can manage your data centers, your cloud, and edge, all with that one Prism application. So again, regardless of where your deployments are, so long as you can see the Prism interface, you're on the same network, you can manage all those deployments from that single instance. More efficient IT infrastructure management, so getting away from managing separate siloed storage, separate servers, separate hypervisors, and so on. Everything is essentially, with hyperconverged infrastructure, everything is virtualized from the compute down to the storage and to the networking. So again, being able to manage that a bit better. Migrating of workloads to the cloud can be done a lot faster, rather than refactoring and migrating to the native cloud in that first instance. So for instance, if you do have a customer who is running a Nutanix environment, for instance, and they do want to migrate to the cloud, the fact that you can actually pick up your licensing, move that into the cloud, migrate your workloads from Nutanix on-prem to Nutanix NC2, and then you can refactor in the cloud. So you move everything to cloud and then refactor, rather than transferring and refactoring from on-premise to in cloud. And essentially that means you're not having to pay for cloud instances and on-prem. You can make that cloud move and then do that refactoring. Essentially, by doing that, we get a cheaper or a more cost-effective, I would say, experience from that with regards to cloud. And again, because of that hyperconverged infrastructure, it's cheaper than deploying a standard 3-tier on-prem based on the TCO. And again, as I mentioned before, those workloads from on-prem are fully portable, so you can migrate those workloads on the fly from your on-premise infrastructure to your cloud infrastructure, and those licenses are portable as well. So where do partners win with Nutanix? So that freedom of choice. So there is no lock-in with Nutanix. You have that choice of hardware platform, hypervisor, whether you want to put it in a cloud or hyperscaler, you can do that too. A unified platform. So again, a single point of management. Once you've learnt it, you don't need to learn it again, regardless of where your systems are deployed. And you've got that power of simplicity. So again, that cloud-like experience with that one-click capability for provisioning and so on. And essentially that's what Nutanix is trying to get away from, is being able to deploy workloads on-prem and getting away from managing infrastructure. And then the customer delight. So Nutanix have an NPS score of 90+. So NPS is based on end user experience. And when they fill in a survey, it's whether you would recommend Nutanix to a peer or a partner. And what you'll find is the NPS is based on -100 to +100. And you find the likes of Microsoft or Apple have got good scores, which are around 30 to 40 points. But obviously Nutanix are at that top end with +90. And thank you very much. I'm just going to pass over onto Darryl, who's going to talk to you about OpenShift.
Cool. Cheers, Mark. So let me just share my slides. Cool. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Darryl. I am one of the members of the pre-sales team here at TD SYNNEX, and I'm dedicated to Red Hat. So what I want to do is kind of talk you through some of the options for virtualization with Red Hat technologies. Now, if you're anything like me, then you've probably spent a fair bit of time recently Googling what's going on with VMware and kind of what virtualization platforms are out there to try and understand what's going on. And in the process of doing that, you'll probably stumble across an absolute abundance of top 10 style lists that you'll end up reading. And out of all the ones that I've looked at, you'll probably see a bunch of like niche providers that crop up here and there. You'll see a couple more names that come up a bit more frequently, like maybe Citrix, Oracle, or even Proxmox, for example. And then you'll see the names that appear on almost every single one of those lists, which is like Nutanix, VMware, Hyper-V, and Red Hat virtualization. And I actually find it really funny that Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization comes up so high on those lists, because what it shows is the absolute lack or limited research that the people putting those articles and those listicles together do, because Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization actually goes end of life in 2-3 months time. So what I want to do now is kind of spend the next 15 minutes or so talking to you about Red Hat's logical successor to Red Hat virtualization, which in my opinion is one of Red Hat's best kept secrets. And it's called Red Hat OpenShift virtualization. And it's a feature that is included in every OpenShift subscription that allows you to run KVM-based virtual machines. So anyone not familiar, KVM is the same virtualization technology that powered Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization, so a highly performant hypervisor that's now been integrated into OpenShift. So for those who are unfamiliar, let's just spend a couple of seconds explaining what OpenShift is. And so what OpenShift is a fully supported open source enterprise Kubernetes platform that's for managing both containerized and virtualized workloads. And it's a platform that's integrated with key tools that can help drive DevOps and improve developer productivity. So as a platform, it gives you a tool set that can help you to modernize your legacy applications while integrating security earlier into the development cycle and providing a set of platforms and tools that can help you integrate AI into your applications. And it does all of that while giving you the same look and feel and capability wherever you run it. So that's whether that's on the edge, in your own data center or private cloud, or even in the public cloud. So let's talk about OpenShift then a bit more as a virtualization platform. Now, we realize that there's always going to be a demand for virtual machines. There's always going to be some application that for whatever reason cannot be containerized. But containers are the next gen technology. Cloud native is next gen. So what OpenShift can do is bring your virtual machines into a cloud native platform and manage them in a cloud native way alongside containers. So your virtual machines still run as full-blown virtual machines using the KVM hypervisor, but they are controlled and managed by a container. And, because we realize there'll always be a place for virtual machines, OpenShift includes virtualization in every subscription. So what that allows you to do is to seamlessly bridge the gap between the legacy and the next gen. So you can bring your virtual machines to a cloud native platform and modernize them at your own pace, on a platform that has all of the tools that you need to help you do that. And also, just while we're on this slide, I want to take a second to bust a few myths that crop up around OpenShift and virtualization. And one thing that people seem to associate with OpenShift is statelessness. They think that because it's on OpenShift, it's stateless. OpenShift can do stateful. And in fact, when you run your virtual machines, they will still have persistent storage held in a virtual machine image like you're used to, but it's managed by Kubernetes. And another misconception that people seem to think is that, it's somehow like virtual machines inside containers or something bizarre like that. And that's not correct. With OpenShift virtualization, you're running full-blown KVM virtual machines, but they just happen to be managed in a cloud native way by containers. So why should you or anybody else consider OpenShift as a platform on which you can run virtual machines? And the first reason is that OpenShift gives you that unified platform to run both your virtual machines and containers together. And being that unified platform gives you a couple of advantages. You've got that simplified pathway to application modernization and containers. And you can bring your virtual machines into more modern ways of working and streamline the DevOps processes by integrating virtual machines into the same processes that your teams are using to run and manage containers. And you become more resource efficient because you're using the same hardware to run both types of workloads. And as you modernize, you can begin to see, some of the inherent resource efficiency that containers have. It also means being more efficient with people, because you have a single platform to learn for both containers and virtual machines. And that efficiency, again, extends beyond just a single instance of OpenShift, because OpenShift is the same wherever you decide to deploy your workloads, meaning that you get a consistent experience, whether that's on the edge, in your data center or private cloud, or on the public cloud. So your teams only need to learn one technology. So a couple of concerns that we hear from people when talking about OpenShift virtualization is around things like Microsoft workloads. Well, OpenShift is a supported platform under Microsoft's SVVP program, meaning that any Microsoft or Windows workloads are supported on OpenShift. Another concern that I hear is from customers who have invested in things like vSAN or NSX. So what I'll say there is that OpenShift can give you the flexibility around how you manage your storage and networking. It has a very extensible storage and networking framework with a choice of how you do that. And you can use some integrated software-defined options, or you can use external providers. And the good news is that it's really, really easy to move virtual machines to OpenShift. So, most people who would be looking at OpenShift virtualization are doing so from another technology, another platform. And so what Red Hat have done is to develop a standalone tool that can support with that migration. And the tool can automate a lot of that migration process. And the way that it works is that you create a plan for a migration within the tool, where you configure things like how you want to map your storage and networking between your target platform and OpenShift. And you can pre-plan and predate when you want your migration to occur. So you can avoid that kind of big bang migration and carry out a much more strategic phased approach. And as part of putting that plan together, you can select whether you want to do a cold or a warm migration. So with a cold migration, you just, you power the machine off, copy over the files, and power the machine on in OpenShift. Well, with a warm migration, you can pre-copy your data and then effectively take continual snapshots of your VMs until the very last minute, when it'll power off your machine and copy over any data that couldn't be done while the machine was powered on before cutting over to your new machine. And since as part of the mapping, when you create a plan, you can map networks, that machine can be created with the same IP address. So what you're able to do is really minimize the amount of downtime that you would see with a migration tool. So why then OpenShift virtualization as a service provider? Now, it depends on the type of service provider that you are. So some of these will be, either more or less relevant to you, but the key takeaway is that there is a lot of opportunity. So, first of all, you can differentiate yourself by, allowing your customers to run both containers and virtual machines in your environment. And you can do that at whatever level that you choose, whether it be platform as a service, infrastructure as a service, and OpenShift supports secured multi-tenancy. So however you choose to offer it, you'll be able to maintain customer segregation. You could even look at doing things like providing migration services using the migration toolkit that Red Hat have built to help migrate your customers that are having the same challenges as you are, and you could do that onto your platform or another OpenShift platform. And once on your platform, you can begin to look at services like application modernization services for your customers, where you migrate their virtual machines to OpenShift and then help them to migrate those applications into containers. Or alternatively, you could use the features that OpenShift offers itself for yourself to help you quickly create new features for your services, or to deploy brand new services much faster based on existing container images. So there's tons and tons of people out there using OpenShift, and there are a load of case studies showing just how scalable OpenShift is as a solution. And I've put a link in a resources page at the end of this deck where you can go and read them in more detail. So I'll make sure that we share a copy of the slides after the call. So if this has kind of whet your appetite for OpenShift virtualization, then we're actually running an event in London on the 22nd of May at 8 Club in Moorgate, where you can come to learn a little bit more. So we've got some fantastic speakers from Red Hat lined up who'll be able to go into much more detail than we've had time to today around how exactly OpenShift can simplify that container migration journey, and some more detail around its virtualization capabilities. Red Hat have also announced that they're going to be announcing a new SKU specifically aimed at service providers. And while they haven't shared much more than that, what I kind of personally think that's going to end up being is something that will enable you to pay and use only the virtualization capabilities of OpenShift while you migrate. And then when you're ready to enable some of the more advanced container development or management features, you've got a streamlined pathway to move later on. So Red Hat haven't communicated anything on that, but that's what personally I think it's going to be. So can't go into much more detail than that, but hopefully if you come along on the 22nd, we'll be able to share a little bit more detail. So what next? As I mentioned, come along to our event on the 22nd, but also reach out to any members of the Red Hat team if you want to go into a bit more detail. We can do like one-to-one sessions of, even if you just want to understand some of the basics, you know, like the differences between virtual machines and containers. Or, you know, we can help you set up trial environments within our solutions center that you can access remotely. So if you want to play around with virtualization on OpenShift, we can support you to do that. Red Hat have also created a specific training path for partners to help you understand OpenShift virtualization. So there's plenty of options out there to help you learn more. The links to everything are in the resources page. So we'll make sure you get a copy of it all after. So it was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of OpenShift and OpenShift virtualization. I hope you found it interesting. So Dan, I think I'm throwing back to you for wrap up, and I don't know if we've got any questions.
You were indeed. We have got a few questions. Thanks to Mark and thanks to you, Darryl. Really informative sessions. Thanks to the attendees, by the way. I can still, we've still got 70 of you here, so pretty much everyone's stuck with us through the various sessions. Question wise, do feel free to put any in, and as I say, we'll do our best to answer. Simple one from Neil. Will we get a copy of the slides? Of course, we'll get the slides out to you. And then we've got a couple on the new, particularly in the Nutanix side. Let's start with Kevin's. Have Nutanix come up with any MSP licensing models post Broadcom acquisition of VMware? So that is probably a Dina and a Mark one, if you guys are there with us both.
Oh, we're both
Yeah,
popped up at the same time.
It's probably going to be a question for you, Dina, to be honest.
Yeah,
MSP.
that's okay. So hi Kevin. Nutanix actually haven't put any specific licensing models in place for MSP. However, we've been working with quite a few MSPs on bespoke stuff. So Natalie at Nutanix will absolutely work with you on that and make it work for you should you want it or need it. But there's nothing specific.
I think there's, and again, having spoken to yourself, Dina, and Chloe, and obviously I've been dealing with the VMware side, it's again part of what we're asking for you as a community is to help us shape and help us give the vendors the guidance as to what you need those programs to look like. It's a unique opportunity right now where the shake-up of this market means those vendors are looking for your interaction, your information. So our advice is very much to speak to Dina, speak to the team, speak to Chloe about what you need as a community from those vendors, and let us be your voice into that vendor. I think is a message.
That's
we'd go
fair
with.
comment.
And this one, it's probably to stay with me on this one, Dina. What proportion of service providers who are working with TD SYNNEX are operating a multi-tenant platform based on Nutanix versus VMware? I think it's a difficult number to pin down precisely, but I would say it's VMware have been around for so long. If I think about the VMware price, you know, literally the price list was just the same for year after year. I think it's somewhere between that sort of 10 to 1, 20 to 1 ratio is where we're probably at. And it's probably nearer the 20 to 1, I would think, ratio at the moment. What I would say is I've seen a lot of interest in those Nutanix conversations. I can think of a number of the service providers that we mutually know that are working and talking to you. I don't necessarily always think it's a rip and replace situation. It's, you know, sometimes back to my earlier point about risk mitigation. It's about having an alternative. It's about making sure it's the right fit for your business and what you're looking to achieve.
Yeah.
But a lot of interest in that space. And did we have, that was Dan's question. I didn't spot any of the Red Hat bits. I know you brought up containers in particular, Darryl, as a something that's definitely in the fold from a Red Hat perspective. I think the same is the same for Nutanix and VMware. So again, those sort of areas that we might focus on as a team moving forwards are, how can we help you adopt containers as a go-to-market? What is it your customers are asking you for that we can help and support? But that goes across all of the vendors that you're seeing here today. So in those sort of conversations, understanding how we can help support you go to market, how can we support things like identification of customers and attracting those customers. We've got the likes of IQ Blade from a data-driven marketing point of view. They'll work with the sales, Udina, Chloe and the guys on Red Hat. There's real value there from a TD SYNNEX point of view that can bolster what we're trying to do in that space. And on that note, unless there are any, I don't think there's any questions in the chat. Let's just check. We haven't missed anything, guys. If not, any questions, the default Nutanix control platform allows and supports the installation of OpenShift natively, was the comment there from Ian over at Red Hat, who's kindly joined us. And again, it's the vendor expertise that sit and are aligned well with us. I think TD SYNNEX are well positioned with all of these vendors to help you as a group moving forwards. It's about you telling us what you need. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap up. We look forward to seeing you at a next session. You'll see more of these trusted advisor sessions, trusted cloud providers. It's the right sort of approach. Sometimes it might have a particular focus on a vertical or an area of trusted advisor, but we'll work as a team. So hopefully we'll see you on the next session, and look forward to seeing you there. Take care.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.